For the past several years, the global media apparatus has been entirely, almost obsessively fixated on the loud, chaotic, transatlantic soap opera playing out between Prince William and his self-exiled brother, Prince Harry. The world has been captivated by the explosive interviews, the leaked text messages, the courtroom meltdowns, and the endless whining grievances radiating from the hills of Montecito. But the public has been looking at the wrong battlefield. The feud with the Sussexes is merely a loud, distracting sideshow. The true existential fight for the soul, the structure, and the ultimate survival of the House of Windsor is a cold, calculating game of chess being played between the future king of the United Kingdom and the woman his father chose over his mother. Queen Camilla has spent the better part of 2 decades fighting a grueling, uphill battle for public and institutional acceptance. She endured the vicious, unrelenting hatred of the British press, the icy skepticism of the late Queen Elizabeth II, and the lingering, ghostly shadow of the most beloved woman of the 20th century. Through sheer, unyielding persistence, a carefully managed public relations rehabilitation, and the unwavering, stubborn devotion of King Charles III, she completed what is arguably the most astonishing personal makeover in modern aristocratic history. She went from being widely despised as the Rottweiler and the ultimate homewrecker to being crowned queen consort in a glittering, historic ceremony at Westminster Abbey. She secured the ultimate prize. She placed the crown upon her own head. But as the spring of 2026 unfolds, bringing with it the stark, terrifying reality of the king's ongoing, highly publicized battle with cancer, the ground beneath Camilla's feet is beginning to violently shift. As Prince William's constitutional authority grows by the day, as he seamlessly transitions from the role of the dutiful heir into the position of the de facto, operational shadow king, Camilla's hard-won position and, crucially, the highly contested position of her own non-royal children and grandchildren is in catastrophic jeopardy. This is the story of the most vicious, high-stakes power struggle currently unfolding behind the impenetrable walls of the palace. It is a story not of shouted arguments or leaked tabloid rumors, but of subtle, ruthless signals, strategic excommunications, and the terrifying realization that in the Game of Thrones, proximity to the crown does not guarantee permanent safety. We are going to explore the catastrophic Christmas snub that changed the entire family dynamic, the silent, terrifying judgment of Princess Anne, the deep, unresolved psychological trauma that continues to drive Prince William's every decision, and the absolute nightmare scenario awaiting Queen Camilla the very second the reign of King Charles comes to its inevitable end. To truly comprehend the suffocating tension currently paralyzing the inner workings of the palace, one must first intimately understand a group of individuals that many casual observers outside the United Kingdom barely even know exist. These are the members of Queen Camilla's biological family. Before she married the future king, before she became the Duchess of Cornwall or the Queen Consort, Camilla Parker Bowles had a completely separate life, a previous husband, and a family of her own. She is the mother of a 50-year-old son named Tom Parker Bowles, who has built a comfortable career as a food critic and writer, and a daughter named Laura Lopes, who works within the elite circles of the art curation world. Between them, Tom and Laura have given Camilla 5 biological grandchildren: Lola, Freddie, Eliza, Gus, and Louis. Let us be brutally, constitutionally clear about the absolute status of these individuals within the rigid hierarchy of the British class system. They are not royals. They hold no patents of nobility. They do not possess the highly coveted Her Royal Highness or His Royal Highness prefixes. They are, in the strict, uncompromising eyes of the British state and the ancient laws of peerage, private, regular, common citizens. They possess no claim to the throne, no right to taxpayer-funded security, and no inherent entitlement to the immense privileges of the crown. However, for years, King Charles attempted to aggressively force a modern, progressive, blended family dynamic onto a 1,000-year-old, deeply conservative institution that inherently rejects modernization. driven by his profound, blinding love for Camilla and his desperate, lifelong desire to see her validated and elevated by the world. Charles began quietly, but systematically integrating her biological children and grandchildren into the most exclusive, fiercely guarded royal spaces on the planet. They began appearing at highly sensitive, private family gatherings. They were photographed arriving at royal estates. But the ultimate, most controversial display of this forced integration occurred during the spectacular coronation in May of 2023. In a move that reportedly stunned traditional courtiers and deeply unsettled the broader aristocratic establishment, Camilla's non-royal, commoner grandsons were given prime, highly visible, deeply ceremonial roles as pages of honor. They were dressed in the traditional scarlet uniforms of the royal household, carrying the heavy velvet robes of the monarch down the aisle of Westminster Abbey. Even more shockingly, they were invited to stand on the iconic, world-famous balcony of Buckingham Palace, rubbing shoulders with the working royals, standing just feet away from Prince George, the future king. It was the ultimate, undeniable sign of inclusion. Charles was broadcasting a powerful visual message to the global public and to the institution itself. My wife's family is my family, and they are now part of the royal fabric. It was a moment of supreme triumph for Camilla, a public declaration that her bloodline had officially arrived at the very pinnacle of British society. But public rehabilitation is one thing. Permanently embedding a non-royal bloodline into the absolute, sacred inner sanctum of the monarchy is something else entirely. And as Prince William takes on a much larger, incredibly aggressive, and highly protective role as the heir apparent in the wake of his father's declining health, the presence of these regular citizens in sacred royal spaces has become a massive, unignorable point of friction. William has a very clear, completely unsentimental vision for the future of the monarchy, and it is a vision that emphatically, absolutely does not include Tom Parker Bowles or his children reaping the benefits of an institution they do not serve. In the highly codified, intensely scrutinized world of the British royal family, absolutely nothing happens by accident. The palace does not communicate its true intentions through polite press releases or on-the-record interviews. They communicate through the ancient, complex language of choreography, where you are told to stand, what ceremonial robes you are permitted to wear, which carriage you are assigned to ride in, and, most importantly, who you are invited to have dinner with, are all matters of extreme state importance. And the most important, highly visible choreography of the entire royal calendar happens during the festive season. Every single year, the extended royal family gathers at the sprawling Sandringham estate in Norfolk for Christmas. The traditional, heavily photographed Christmas morning walk to the Church of St. Mary Magdalene is the ultimate, undeniable public display of who is currently in and who is permanently out. It is the visual barometer of royal favor. In December of 2024, Camilla's biological family achieved what many thought was impossible. Tom Parker Bowles, Laura Lopes, and their respective children were formally invited to spend Christmas at Sandringham. They attended the church service. They walked with the royals. It was seen by royal commentators as a massive, unparalleled victory for the Queen consort, the final, undeniable proof that the blended family experiment had succeeded and that her bloodline had been permanently accepted into the royal fold. But exactly 1 year later, in December of 2025, a quiet, devastating, and entirely deliberate shift occurred. It was officially confirmed by palace insiders and subsequently observed by the world's media that Tom Parker Bowles, Laura Lopes, and their children would not be joining the king and queen for the Christmas festivities at Sandringham. The palace public relations machine, always desperate to avoid the appearance of internal conflict, immediately went into overdrive attempting to spin the narrative. They released statements suggesting that the king, who was actively and bravely managing his ongoing, grueling cancer treatments, simply wanted a much more private, scaled back, and family-focused gathering to conserve his waning energy. But seasoned royal insiders and veteran correspondents knew exactly how to translate that carefully sanitized palace jargon. In the ruthless lexicon of the British aristocracy, family focused at Sandringham means one thing and one thing only: the Windsors. It means the legitimate constitutional bloodline. The contrast presented on that crisp Christmas morning was absolutely glaring and intentionally brutal. Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie were prominently invited and prominently attended the service, smiling for the cameras and walking alongside the senior royals. This inclusion occurred despite the undeniable, horrific fact that their father, Prince Andrew, has been entirely disgraced, stripped of his military titles, banished from public life, and permanently exiled to a crumbling cottage due to his catastrophic association with a convicted international sex offender. The York sisters are tethered to the most toxic scandal in modern royal history, yet they were welcomed with open arms. Why? Because the York sisters possess royal blood. They are princesses of the realm. They are in the line of succession. Camilla's children, regardless of how much the king may personally adore them, are not. Getting a seat at the heavily guarded Sandringham dining table is about absolute belonging. In 2025, Camilla's family was unceremoniously, quietly, and ruthlessly removed from that table. Whatever polite, face-saving excuses were fed to the press about the king's health and the need for a quiet holiday, the underlying message reverberating through the icy corridors of the palace was terrifyingly clear to everyone paying attention. The era of the grand blended family experiment is officially over. Prince William's vision of a blood-only, strictly delineated monarchy is aggressively taking hold, and the purge has already begun. To truly grasp the icy, uncompromising undertones of this shifting dynamic, one must look deep into the psychological architecture of Prince William. The global public often sees William and Camilla appearing to work together harmoniously. They smile for the flashing cameras at state banquets. They stand shoulder to shoulder, looking appropriately solemn at Remembrance Day services at the cenotaph. They share polite, seemingly warm exchanges in the royal box at Ascot. But those who know them intimately, those who operate within their private households, describe the true nature of their relationship in very specific, highly revealing terms. They are friendly in public, but extremely cautious, guarded, and cold in private. We absolutely cannot for a single moment forget the profound, traumatic history that binds these two individuals together. William was a sensitive, deeply observant teenage boy who was forced to watch his mother, Diana, the Princess of Wales, suffer profound, agonizing public and private humiliation directly because of Camilla's lingering, undeniable presence in his father's life. He remembers the devastating fights. He remembers the tears behind closed doors. He remembers the famous, earth-shattering panorama interview where his mother looked directly into a television camera and told the entire world, "There were 3 of us in this marriage, so it was a bit crowded." William was forced to watch his mother's world fall apart, to watch her be stripped of her Royal Highness title, and ultimately to mourn her tragic, violent death. All while Camilla slowly, methodically, and relentlessly moved closer and closer to the crown that his mother was supposed to wear. That kind of deep, formative childhood trauma does not simply vanish because a public relations firm decides it is time for a rebrand. The pain does not evaporate just because the Archbishop of Canterbury blesses a second marriage. For years, William kept a rigid, polite, completely impenetrable distance from his stepmother. But recently, over the last few years, they found themselves forced into a highly strategic alliance of absolute convenience. Why? Because they shared a mutual existential enemy that threatened to completely destroy the very institution they both fundamentally rely on for their power and survival. Prince Andrew, when the Jeffrey Epstein scandal exploded, threatening to drag the entire British monarchy down into a bottomless swamp of sleaze, criminality, and reputational ruin, William and Camilla were reportedly united in their absolute, unwavering ruthlessness. They both recognized that Andrew was a toxic, unmanageable liability. They both pushed a highly hesitant, deeply sentimental King Charles to take decisive, unprecedented action. They worked in tandem to strip Andrew of his cherished military titles, to remove him from all public duties, and to forcefully evict him from the sprawling luxury of Royal Lodge. In that specific battle, they were a unified front. But sharing a common enemy does not make you friends. It makes you tactical allies on a battlefield. And once the threat of Prince Andrew was successfully neutralized and contained, the temporary alliance instantly fractured. Reports began leaking into the high-end broadsheets in 2025 that Camilla was growing deeply uncomfortable with the sheer amount of power, influence, and fawning media attention that William and Catherine were commanding on the global stage. She allegedly felt completely sidelined and overshadowed as the palace public relations machine shifted its heavy strategic focus to the glamorous, flawless younger Wales family, positioning them as the absolute saviors of the modern institution. William, in turn, is acutely, painfully aware that Camilla's ultimate loyalty is to Charles the man, not to the institution of the monarchy itself. He views her as a passenger on the ship, not a captain of the fleet. This brings us to the core of Prince William's grand, overarching strategy for the remainder of the 21st century. William is not going to be a passive caretaker king. He is not interested in simply maintaining archaic traditions for the sake of empty nostalgia. He has looked at the modern political and economic landscape and realized that the monarchy is standing on incredibly fragile ground. He knows that the institution must justify its massive expense to the British taxpayer every single day. He understands that the era of unquestioning deference is dead. His vision for the future is widely known in palace circles as the slimmed-down monarchy, and it is a vision executed with the precision of a corporate restructuring. William wants a focused, highly efficient, ruthlessly disciplined royal group, completely free of hangers-on, peripheral relatives, and minor aristocratic figures who enjoy the luxurious perks of the crown without actively contributing to the grueling, relentless schedule of daily royal duties. He watched the horrifying, slow-motion public relations disasters of Prince Andrew and the chaotic, embarrassing media circus created by Prince Harry, and his ultimate takeaway was remarkably simple and unforgiving. Excess baggage kills the crown. If you are not an active, contributing asset to the brand, you are a catastrophic liability waiting to happen. William has already begun aggressively implementing this lean, corporate vision. He and Catherine deliberately moved their growing family out of the sprawling, staff-heavy confines of Kensington Palace and into the relatively modest, isolated Adelaide cottage on the Windsor estate, eventually transitioning to Forest Lodge. They are deliberately and methodically creating their own tightly controlled, impenetrable court, entirely separate from the bloated, leaky bureaucracy of Buckingham Palace. In William's future monarchy, the core group is incredibly tiny. It consists of himself, Queen Catherine, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. The supporting cast will be strictly restricted to the few hardworking, entirely drama-free loyalists like the Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh, Edward and Sophie, who keep their heads down, do the work, and never leak to the press. So, the critical, terrifying question for the Queen Consort is this: where exactly do Camilla's 5 non-royal, commoner grandchildren fit into this lean, ruthless, corporate royal structure? The brutal answer is that they do not fit in at all. They are an anomaly. They are a relic of Charles's sentimental desire for a blended family, a desire that William does not share and will not entertain. William's approach is not born out of petty, personal vindictiveness or a desire for simple revenge. It is based purely on structural, institutional survival. He wants the working Windsors to perform clear, undeniable public roles with maximum historical legitimacy and absolute zero complexity. Anyone standing on a royal balcony, riding in a royal carriage, or attending a private royal Christmas dinner who does not actively serve the British public is, in his view, an unacceptable reputational risk. And Prince William, having survived the trauma of his youth and the betrayal of his brother, does not tolerate risk. There is one figure in the royal family who serves as the ultimate unyielding moral compass for this new, ruthless era. A woman who watches all of this internal maneuvering unfold in absolute terrifying silence, Princess Anne, the Princess Royal. If you want to know who is truly respected, feared, and revered inside the palace, You do not look at the king, and you do not look at the heir. You look at Anne. She is the undisputed hardest-working member of the British royal family. In 2025, she completed an astonishing 478 official public engagements, completely outpacing the king, the Queen Consort, and William himself. At 74 years old, she embodies a strict, unbreakable, almost Spartan personal code of duty, absolute discretion, and unshakable dignity. She is the living embodiment of her mother's reign. Anne has known Camilla for decades. They moved in the same elite, aristocratic, equestrian circles long before the scandalous affairs became public knowledge. In fact, Anne once had a brief romantic relationship with Andrew Parker Bowles before he married Camilla. The history is deep, tangled, and complex. But Anne's ultimate, unshakable, defining loyalty is to the crown itself. She personally witnessed the catastrophic, almost fatal damage her brother's affair did to the institution. She saw the intense global pain it caused Diana, and she saw the lasting psychological scars it left on William and Harry. She understands the cost of prioritizing personal desire over constitutional duty. Anne never complains. She never gives tell-all emotional television interviews to American broadcasters. She never writes memoirs detailing her grievances. But her silence regarding the current, shifting family dynamics is absolutely deafening. During recent Commonwealth Day services and major state events, astute royal observers have noted Anne's highly strategic physical positioning. She is always present, always observing with her piercing gaze, but she rarely engages in the performative, exaggerated warmth that Camilla sometimes seeks for the cameras. She offers polite nods, not warm embraces. Royal commentators and insiders deeply familiar with the palace dynamics suggest that Anne entirely supports William's ruthless, unsentimental approach to the future of the institution. Despite the generational gap, they share the exact same core values. Responsibility absolutely supersedes personal comfort. The survival of the institution vastly outweighs the desires of the individual. If William is quietly, methodically, pushing Camilla's biological family to the margins of royal life, stripping away their access to the inner sanctum, Princess Anne is watching this execution with quiet, stoic approval. She knows from bitter experience that a monarchy cluttered with non-working peripheral relatives who enjoy the glamour without doing the grueling work is a fundamentally weak monarchy. It is a monarchy ripe for scandal and public resentment. In the heavily coded silent world of royal politics, the lack of objection from Princess Anne is the highest possible form of validation for William's strategy. When the hardest-working royal in the country refuses to defend the inclusion of the Queen Consort's non-royal grandchildren, the debate is effectively over. Why does all of this incredibly nuanced, behind-the-scenes maneuvering matter so urgently right now? Why should the global public care about who gets to eat turkey at Sandringham or who is allowed to stand on a balcony during Trooping the Color? Because the British monarchy is currently standing at the most precarious, dangerous, and unpredictable turning point since the sudden, tragic death of Queen Elizabeth II. King Charles is 77 years old and actively, bravely managing a serious, ongoing cancer diagnosis that shocked the world in early 2024. While the palace communications team projects a relentless image of optimism and royal doctors discuss reducing his intense treatments, the stark, undeniable reality of his mortality is the unspoken subtext of every single meeting, every scheduling decision, and every long-term strategy session at Buckingham Palace. Charles remains the anointed king, but the true operational power, the ability to shape the future, to dictate the long-term narrative, and to control the ultimate destiny of the family is aggressively, rapidly shifting to Prince William. The palace machinery, comprised of brilliant, ruthless private secretaries, legal advisors, and courtiers, knows exactly who the next boss is going to be, and they are aligning themselves accordingly. They are not investing their loyalty in a transitional monarch. They are investing it in the future king. This rapid consolidation of power around the Prince of Wales puts Queen Camilla in a terrifyingly vulnerable, incredibly precarious position. Princess Diana's former astrologer, Debbie Frank, someone who deeply understands the psychological dynamics, hidden fears, and historical patterns of this specific family, predicts a massive, unavoidable shift in Camilla's role and influence. As long as Charles breathes, Camilla is fully protected. He is her absolute shield, her champion, and her source of immense power. But the very moment King Charles passes away, the entire paradigm shifts overnight, and the protection she has enjoyed for 2 decades vanishes into thin air. Camilla will instantly lose the title of Queen Consort. She will transition to the historical, significantly less powerful role of the Queen Dowager, the official title for the widow of a king. When that transition happens, she loses her operational power completely. Her household budget, her access to various royal residences, the size of her security detail, and her ultimate place in the royal hierarchy will fall under the absolute, unquestioned, and legally binding authority of the new monarch, King William V. She will be entirely dependent on the goodwill and the financial generosity of the man whose mother she replaced. The man who was forced to watch his mother weep because of her existence. The man whose vision for the lean, modern monarchy has absolutely zero room for her extended family of food critics and art curators. It is a scenario that must fill her with a quiet, creeping sense of existential dread. The arrangements about who does what, who gets paid, who is allowed to represent the crown, and who is permitted to stand on the balcony are quietly being renegotiated right now in the present day, while Charles is still alive but weakened. And in this brutal, silent negotiation for the future, Camilla's non-royal family is losing ground rapidly. The doors that were briefly open to them during the euphoria of the coronation are being firmly, quietly locked from the inside by William's staff. For the Parker Bowles and Lopes children and grandchildren, the harsh, undeniable reality of their situation is finally setting in. They were never royals. They were tourists in the palace, granted temporary, highly conditional VIP passes strictly because of their grandmother's remarkable, scandalous, and unprecedented ascent from mistrusted mistress to crowned queen. It was a spectacular ride, a brush with absolute power that few commoners will ever experience. But the incredible benefits and the proximity to the throne they enjoyed were tied exclusively and completely to Charles's reign. And that reign, like all reigns, will inevitably end. When it does, the new king will draw new, impenetrable boundaries. Every invitation to a state banquet, every allocation of a grace and favor property on a royal estate, every single public appearance will be dictated by William's unyielding, unsentimental vision for a highly disciplined, duty-bound monarchy. He will not tolerate the presence of individuals who dilute the brand or blur the lines of royal legitimacy. Princess Anne will stand beside him, observing quietly, her life's work validated, deeply satisfied that the institution she bled for is finally safe from those who wish to use its proximity for personal prestige rather than serve it with humility. Beyond the emotional and social ostracization, there is a cold, hard, and terrifying financial reality looming over the Parker Bowles family that is currently keeping them awake at night. The British monarchy is, at its core, a massive land-owning corporation, and its wealth is distributed through highly specific, ancient channels that operate entirely on the strict basis of the legitimate bloodline. King Charles currently controls the Duchy of Lancaster, a sprawling, incredibly lucrative portfolio of land, property, and assets that provides the sovereign with their private income, generating tens of millions of pounds annually. This is the financial engine that currently subsidizes the luxurious, highly insulated lifestyle of the Queen Consort, and, by implicit extension, provides the glittering backdrop for her extended family's ascent into high society. But the absolute second the crown passes from Charles to William, the keys to the Duchy of Lancaster, and every single penny it generates, transition directly and irrevocably into William's hands. Camilla will possess no independent, constitutionally guaranteed source of massive royal wealth. She will be entirely reliant on a royal pension, an allowance completely dictated heavily scrutinized, and exclusively approved by a stepson who has spent his entire adult life waiting for the opportunity to clean house. The limitless expense accounts, the taxpayer-funded security details for peripheral family events, the quiet integration of her children into the lucrative sphere of royal influence, all of it will face the brutal, unsentimental guillotine of William's forensic financial audits. This financial strangulation extends directly to the highly contested, deeply symbolic battleground of royal real estate. Within the labyrinthine bureaucracy of the Crown Estate, property is the ultimate manifestation of power. Where you sleep dictates your exact rank in the hierarchy. Currently, Camilla enjoys the unfettered run of Clarence House, the private sanctuary of Highgrove, and the majestic, gilded apartments within Buckingham Palace. But when she inevitably transitions into the role of Queen Dowager, her housing situation becomes a matter of intense, strategic, and likely highly restrictive negotiation. Palace insiders deeply embedded in the succession planning whisper that Prince William and his transition team are already quietly, meticulously mapping out the future allocation of all royal residences, aggressively ensuring that there are absolutely no grace and favor mansions left in the hands of non-working, non-royal relatives. Tom Parker Bowles and Laura Lopes will definitively not be receiving lifetime, subsidized leases to historic manors nestled within the heavily guarded perimeters of Windsor Great Park. They will not be granted the taxpayer-funded sanctuaries that they briefly enjoyed during the peak of their mother's reign. The physical eviction from the inner sanctum will serve as the ultimate, undeniable visual proof of their demotion. William is actively ensuring that the architectural footprint of the monarchy belongs exclusively to those who bleed for it, effectively turning the historic palaces back into heavily guarded fortresses of duty rather than country clubs for a blended family that he never asked for, never wanted, and never truly accepted. At the very heart of this ruthless, systematic erasure is William's profound, almost militant philosophy regarding the agonizing, lifelong sacrifice required to serve the crown. He looks at his own children, Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis, and he sees the immense, crushing weight of historical destiny already pressing down upon their young shoulders. He knows that their childhoods are heavily restricted by protocol, that their futures are entirely pre-written by the state, and that their personal freedoms have been permanently, irrevocably sacrificed on the high altar of public service. They do not get the luxury of being normal. They are, in essence, property of the state. Therefore, it profoundly and fundamentally offends his core sense of justice to watch Camilla's grandchildren waltz into the royal enclosure, effortlessly enjoying the intoxicating glitter, the front row seats, and the global prestige of the monarchy, without ever having to sacrifice a single drop of their personal liberty to earn it. To William, they are merely glamorous interlopers, tourists harvesting the dazzling rewards of a grueling, isolating life they do not actually have to live. By permanently severing their access to the balcony, the state banquets, and the royal treasuries, he is fiercely protecting the unique, sacred sacrifice of his own bloodline. He is drawing an uncrossable, heavily fortified moat between the opportunistic tourists who merely visit the palace and the true prisoners of duty who are chained to it for life. The royal story is already changing. The era of the sentimental, blended family is drawing to a close, replaced by the cold, hard calculus of institutional survival. Prince William is holding the pen, and he is writing a future that is unforgiving in its clarity. And Queen Camilla, sitting in the opulent drawing rooms of Clarence House, is realizing that while she may have miraculously won the decades-long battle for Charles's heart, she is rapidly, inevitably losing the war for the future of the crown. The gates are closing, the drawbridge is being raised, and the House of Windsor is preparing to face the 21st century as a fortress, built not on the shifting sands of romantic love, but on the unbreakable, ruthless bedrock of duty.